In the next half an hour, mourners in Northumberland left distressed and facing big bills. We put their questions to the undertaker. She tells us that you delayed cancelling her mother's plan after her father's funeral. Apparently you're the family firm that care at your saddest time. Why would you not answer some questions? As food clubs in Cumbria stave off the breadline, is Universal Credit delivering?
No, it's not working, no. Why would we be doing this if it was working?
And close encounters in Scarborough. Are there links to visitors from outer space?
Very significant. And to have it here in Yorkshire, it's fantastic.
I'm Chris Jackson, and this is Inside Out. It's a final promise many of us make to our nearest and dearest. Don't worry about my funeral, it's all paid for. But can you really be sure there won't still be a large bill to settle after you're gone? It's a day every family hopes will run smoothly.
It was heartbreaking. It was sickening that somebody had treated my dad that way.
A day to celebrate a life well lived.
She would be absolutely furious at what had happened.
A day to say goodbye.
It's very distressing because, of course, it is your last moments with your dear departed.
But these families say memories are blighted by a poor service and rows over bills. Meet Trevor and Grant Shields, father and son who run K&T Shields in Blyth. It's a company that prides itself on the way it treats its clients.
We are the family firm who care at your saddest time. We pride ourselves in offering a caring, passionate, dignified service.
Gordon Hopper paid for his funeral in advance, but his family had their doubts about the company almost as soon as he died.
My dad passed away at 5:30 in the morning. We had sent for Trevor, took my dad away, and he was back within an hour. I said to my sister, that's not right. And my sister had said to Trevor within a couple of days, could we have Dad's pyjamas back? Oh, we've incinerated them. And then the day after, my sister shouted me through and she went, look at this. And she pulled his shroud down and he still was wearing his pyjamas. They hadn't incinerated him at all. They had literally dumped my dad's body in the coffin and that was it.
Worse followed as the family kept vigil over Gordon's body at home.
We were having to burn candles because the smell in the flat was awful. The coffin was leaking.
Leaking?
Leaking, yes. Mm-hmm. He said, well, you know, it's just bodily fluids, you know, it can't be helped. It was awful. Very, very upsetting.
But despite Avril's dad believing he'd paid for his funeral, the family say Trevor Shields asked for more money, even before they'd left the crematorium.
And as Trevor was helping my mum back into the morning car, just after the service, he leant in and said in a very low voice, don't forget you owe me another £700, Mrs. Hopper. It's not my fault, it's the council.
So he was asking your mum for money?
On the day of the funeral. We just couldn't believe that anybody could be so callous. It was very, very upsetting for her. She was devastated when we got home.
Edith Thompson took out a plan with the Shields so she knew her family would be looked after financially.
She was a very kind, thoughtful lady, very money savvy. She hadn't had much all her life, so she wouldn't waste money. So when she took the plan out, she was under the impression everything was paid for.
But there was a shock when the bill for an additional £1,200 arrived.
It was the mourning car which aroused me suspicions, because I believe the car was paid for. And I believe the other things I was charged for were also paid for.
John Owens also thought he had all his affairs in order.
Pretty well organised, yes. Never went into debt or anything like that.
John set up a prepaid funeral plan with K&T Shields back in 2003, paying £2,190 for both his and his wife Edna's funerals.
Said that his funeral and my mother's was paid for. and there was nothing to worry about, and he said that more than once over the years.
These families say, according to their loved ones, everything was settled. So when the time came, there should not have been anything left to pay. Families expected that to include fees for the crematorium and all administration costs. But it turns out that wasn't the case. Perhaps uniquely with any purchase, the customer is no longer with us. So without the right paperwork, it's difficult to challenge exactly what's been paid for. The plans were taken out some years ago, and the Shields firm took away these customer copies when they first visited the deceased.
I did ask for the plan back 3 times, and 3 years later I'm still waiting for it.
My brother received a bill 4 days later which had an extra £1,030 added to it. We asked for a copy of whatever was signed. Trevor Shields and then Grant Shields were unable to provide anything.
So who oversees the work of an undertaker? Well, funeral plans are not covered by the Financial Conduct Authority, the financial watchdog, but the FCA expects monies to be invested in insurance or trust funds. That way your money's protected, and there's a chance it could earn enough interest to cover rising costs. And that's important because you could live for many years after you take out your plan, and fees for things like a crematorium could go up. According to correspondence from the Shields family, which we've seen, customers' money was not invested.
There has never been interest made on any plans. The prepaid funeral plan fund is held in a client account which accrues 0% interest.
It seems very odd that any firm would hold money in a 0% account. Firstly, it probably puts them in breach of the law here, because the law says if you're not going to be regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, you need to put your money in either a trust, which is managed by an independent fund manager, or into a life insurance fund, which is managed by a life insurance provider. Neither of those two parties would ever take that money and put it into a 0% interest fund.
Derek's family refused to pay the extra costs for his dad's funeral, so Shields wouldn't honour the policy taken out to cover his mum's. He later found out the firm's cancellation fees, £1,200.
You can argue that cancellation fees are justifiable to recoup a small amount of the sales and marketing costs that have gone into setting up that plan in the first place. But in our view, that should be tens of pounds, definitely not hundreds, and certainly not thousands. Those firms that are charging over £1,000 are completely out of kilter with the rest of the market, and I think very hard to justify that.
Avril also tried to cancel her mum's policy with Shields after the family's experience following her dad's death.
We received the letter saying that we could only have part of the money back. But Mum had taken so poorly, what priorities lay with looking after her.
Avril's mum died shortly afterwards. The family paid almost £4,000 to another undertaker.
We just literally thought, well, that's it. We might as well write that off.
So in effect, your mum had 2 funerals?
Yes, she paid for 2 funerals.
A week later at K&T Shields in Blyth, and after protracted discussions, Grant Shields has agreed to answer our questions. But our interview will end with him locking us in the building. First, we asked about Avril's father's funeral and the complaints about a leaky coffin.
I can clearly state that the coffins are fully lined from the manufacturer, which stops all leakage. So I believe them points may be slightly invalid.
He didn't answer my question about what happened to the pyjamas, but he did deny the speed of the service.
It certainly wouldn't have been an hour, because there wouldn't have been enough time for preparation within 1 hour.
Well, indeed. So the family were a bit surprised at the speed at which it returned.
It would be impossible for it to have returned the family's loved one within 1 hour.
Then the alleged talk about the bill at the crematorium. Don't forget, you owe me £700.
Would any funeral director say such a thing? Why would you do that?
Well, indeed, that's why I'm asking you the question, because the family say that's what happened. Are you saying it did not happen?
Right, how long do you have to make payment for a funeral? You have
Can you answer the question,
days.
Grant? Did
You have
that conversation happen?
Certainly not.
Thank you. Grant denied the company remove and keep families' copies of the funeral plans.
They would have been taken back with the additional prices stated on the actual...
They've been waiting
on
3 years.
On that plan document. No, they haven't. Certainly not.
But he avoided my question about where the company keeps signed paperwork.
and the plan gets taken away, disbursement fees get added, handed back to the family.
It's not the signed document that they're asking for, though, is it?
I don't know what you're getting at.
He confirmed that their client's money is not invested.
So it's in an insurance type of account, which accrues 0% interest.
But it is definitely in an insurance plan. I want to be clear about that.
It is in an account, yes, that's correct.
We've since seen a copy of a certificate from Shields Insurance Co., but neither that business name nor K&T Shields appears on the register of authorised insurance providers. Grant denied the company's cancellation fees were high, and he said refusing to honour Derek's mother's funeral because of money owed for his dad's was fair.
Would you go to the supermarket and buy half your shopping?
We're talking about funeral plans, not going to Tesco's.
And the following week you go.
We're talking about funeral plans here.
Pay again, but then actually you don't want to actually pay the 50% that's outstanding from the previous one. Come on.
I tried asking about Averil's mother's plan when this happened.
She tells us that you delayed cancelling her mother's
Time's
plan
up, thank you.
after her father's funeral. Can I just ask you about why you call yourself Grant Shields LLB? Apparently you're the family firm that care at your saddest time.
We kept filming, as did Grant's sister.
Why would you not answer some questions? There's no one left in the room now, so the questions that we were going to ask, unfortunately, we've not been able to put to Grant. His sister said that they thought it was half an hour was enough and that they've terminated the interviews.
But Grant did come back in to talk about his legal credentials.
I've already told you, I have a law degree.
Where from?
I don't need to tell you where it comes
Why
from.
won't you tell me?
Well, why do I need to?
Why just won't you tell me?
What qualification have you got, Chris?
I've got a degree and I can tell you where it's from. It's from Warwick University. So there you go, not that difficult. Your law degree is from...
Don't need to tell you.
Then, after an argument with our producer, he locked us in.
Right, well, you want to leave it open.
Concerns about firms like Shields have prompted a government consultation on tougher rules for the industry, which currently regulates itself.
How do you think your dad would feel about what had happened to him?
He'd be livid, absolutely livid. Not just because of the way the family were upset, but my dad thought he had left my mum with no worries about her funeral either.
He was quite proud and he'd been very upset that, especially my mother's funeral, wasn't catered for.
She'd saved hard to pay for it, and the fact that we were left with the bill, she would have been absolutely furious.
Funerals are something we don't often like to talk about, but if you've an experience you'd like to share, then why not email me? Details are on screen now.